Welcome back to Ita See the World. In last section, we talk about traditional Tahitian dance culture, and right now we are continue to know more about different aspects of Tahitian culture. And today we are very honored to have amazing guest from Tahiti. She's Moiata Galenon, and she's the first female Maohi navigator on the traditional canoe, and she's also the crew member of Fa'afaite. And she sailed from Tahiti to Aotearoa in 2019 without using any instruments. So, Yorana, Moiata. Yorana. And first, can you introduce yourself and say hi to our audience first?
Yes, hello, hi. My name is Moiata Galenon. I have been sailing on our traditional canoe, Fa'afaite, since 2010. When the canoe actually was built. It was really love at first sight, and I haven't stopped sailing since then. Yeah.
As a first female Maohi navigator in Tahiti, can you share with us how you start this journey and who inspired you to, continue this ancient culture?
I think as maybe many people in Tahiti, we are looking for our roots because history has been forgotten. With colonization, we have lost a lot of our history because it was an oral history. We have lost a lot of our cultural practices, our traditions.
Yes.
And so since I was young, I was looking for something that would get me closer to my roots and my ancestors. My source of inspiration is my grandfather, who's Tahitian born, and he was a fisherman. So the sea was very important to him, and he taught me about the sea. So from a very young age, I was very, very attracted by the sea. I cannot live away from the sea. This is not possible for me. And then I have seen the Hawaiian canoe when it came to Tahiti, because it came many times. And one year it came, I was 15 years old, and they came to my school. And because I was fluent in English, they asked me, my professor, my teachers asked me to answer their questions. Mm-hmm. And so I, talked, and we had, that was my first interview.
Mm-hmm. Your first interview.
And I asked them, who are you and what are you doing here? So they said, oh, we came on a sailing canoe. And I was very intrigued. And I remember to myself thinking, wow, one day I'm gonna do this. Mm-hmm. And naturally, when this opportunity for Tahiti to have a canoe, this man, his name is Dieter Paulmann, he's German, and he wanted to give canoes to Polynesian people because he understood that those canoes were not existing anymore. And he had this project to have islanders sail on their ancient canoes to talk about the Pacific Ocean, which is the biggest and the strongest ocean on our planet, and yet it's the most threatened ocean with overfishing, with the rise of the ocean, the water, and with plastic consumption. So thanks to him, we ended up having a canoe in 2009, 2010. And when I heard about this canoe, I didn't think, I just went right away, I was lucky. Those canoes were built in Aotearoa, and I was lucky to be part of the little group that went to see the canoe for the first time when they launched her on the water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was, like I said to you earlier, it was love at first sight, and I really felt like I could commit to that. I could really, and it answered my quest for my identity. It really filled this gap that I have like no other way, like no other things that I could have done before, the canoe really got me closer to my roots and to my ancestors, I believe.
So can you share more about the history of the voyaging culture in Tahiti? Because like you mentioned, this culture is not existing anymore in the history.
Yeah, it disappeared. Voyaging for our ancestors were important because also for political reasons and social reasons. You would make alliances, and so you would need to go back and forth and visit, or also to just keep the ties, the families, and there were different reasons for sailing. So after the first discovery of islands, there would be it would be like a road, and they would come to Aotearoa, to Hawaii, to Rapa Nui, to many different islands, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands, and it would be like just their highway, because there's no separation between land and the sea. It's not like there's a line. For them, it's just a continuation. So this how it was, and it seems like little by little, well, when the first Europeans came to Tahiti and all those islands, and with colonization, it stopped. It stopped. Those voyages stopped.
Yeah, around when? In the history?
At least 400 years ago, 300 years ago.
300 years ago?
I hope I'm not saying something that's not correct. But yeah, and it was gone, and the worst about it is that the knowledge was gone. It's not just the canoes that disappeared, it's the knowledge that was gone. Nobody, well, there are some people in the islands that still know how to go from an island to another, but in short distances. Like in the Tuamotu, there are still today, there are people who know how to go from one place to another, even if they don't see the island at the horizon. But it's shorter distances, you know, it's not long deep sea voyaging, yeah. And then, so it disappeared, and thanks to Hokulea, who came back in 1976, there was a cultural renewal, and little by little, more canoes were built in Hawaii, in Aotearoa, and in different islands in the Pacific, and we had Francis Cowan in Tahiti, back in the 80s, I believe, who built a canoe and sailed to Aotearoa successfully without instruments with his canoe. So he was a navigator before us, but it was always very difficult to build a canoe and keep on maintaining the canoe and sailing. So in 2010, when we got this canoe, which is not in wood, it's in fiberglass, but it's based on a traditional design. It's based on it's an ancient design. But after all, fiberglass is a good option nowadays, because then we don't cut big trees, and wooden canoes are hard to maintain. The maintenance is harder and more difficult than fiberglass, which, you know, this canoe can live 300 years. So we're happy about it, so that we can know that this canoe can be present in our people, for generations.
Yeah. In the history, that's traditional canoe is made by the wood. It's all made by the wood.
Yeah, it's made with wood and with what we call senet, which is the coconut husk that you braid, and it's really unbreakable, and it doesn't get rotten. Yeah, and that was their lashing. They would lash the canoe, do lashings of the planks, and that's how the canoe was put together. Yeah.
So I see that the material of the canoe is you get it from the natural.
Yes, even the glue. Some planks would be glued with sap. Yeah,
that's impressive. And if without using any instruments, the traditional canoe, how do you how do you know the direction when you're sailing?
Yeah, well, today this is how we do it. We know how to do it, but not like our ancestors, because I believe our ancestors would do mathematics without knowing they were doing mathematics, or try, or yeah, trigonometry without knowing that. And we believe that they were way more experts at sea than we are today. But what we do today is that we know where the island or the place where we're going. We know the direction from Tahiti. Let's say we're going to Aotearoa. We know from Tahiti where Aotearoa is and the distance. And so we are going to study, first of all, the map, because when you travel, you have nothing.
Map.
Yeah, no
Yes.
instruments means no notes, no
Yeah.
maps. Yeah, so you have to have the map
In your brain.
in your everything, and then the sky, all the stars in the sky and the moon and the
cloud.
Yeah, you need to understand and to know and to remember where they're gonna rise and set. The sun and the moon rise and set every day at a different place, as opposite to the stars, which rise exactly at the same place every day, but not at the same time. So the sky changes over a period of time, and so the sky becomes actually like a calendar. It is the calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, because a star that rises today, let's say at 6 p.m., will be rising a year from now at 6 p.m. again.
6 p.m.
Yeah, so by the time it comes back, a whole year has gone through. Yeah, so it is like a calendar. Yeah, and it is considered like a calendar.
And you also, like the navigator also named the stars, right?
Yeah. There's well, you have to identify them. They are star names, and to know where they rise and set, and you would measure. You would position yourself depending on where they are. Like let's say today is the equinox and the sun, which means the sun will rise exactly on the east. If you're going north, the sun must rise on your right.
Yes.
If it's rising in front of you, you're not going north. That's how you direct yourself. And you can do the same with the dominant swells during the day. When the sun rises, you can look at the dominant swell and see where it's coming from compared to where the sun is rising. And that gives you this angle that you must keep the whole time until the sun sets. And then when the sun sets, you can measure it again and see if you have been on the correct track or not. And then you can correct your way. You also, of course, the wind, but the wind is difficult because when the wind shifts, you have to understand that it's shifting. Whereas usually the dominant swell is here for a little while. You use the weather, you use the moon, you use the clouds. The clouds tell you
The clouds' color?
The clouds' color, and also their formation and their they tell you so many things. They can tell you if what the weather is going to be like in the next 12 hours. So you usually look at the clouds on the horizon in the morning and at night. Then it'll tell you what kind of weather you will have that night, in the morning, what kind of weather you have. And if you have clouds at the horizon that really don't move, everything else is moving, and this cloud, it's usually a cloud over the mountains. Yeah, because the earth heats faster than the sea, and it makes a condensation. Yeah, and so you have those clouds that stays on top of the mountains. So sometimes, if you're expecting an island to be not so far, you're almost there, and you see this cloud, and it's just not moving.
Yeah.
For hours, even for days, it's not moving. Chances are the island is right underneath. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many knowledge, hide in the nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the beauty of it, is that our ancestors have observed for generations.
Yeah.
And I believe the observation was very, very acute. So every little thing, even the feeling of the air on you, or or the temperature of the sea, the color of the sea, everything. It's not just what you see, it's all your senses. And to learn, you have to just be out there and observe. Don't talk. Just see and hear and listen, yeah? So, and it's something we don't really do anymore today. Today we talk more than we listen. But the beauty of it is that our ancestors were part of this ecosystem. They were really into it. They would be one element of the whole thing. And the whole thing was oneness, yeah? So it is something that we are working every day on attuning the observation. It's got to be very, 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 you know, and so it's like going to school every day, actually. Yeah.
Yes, the sea is the school, and the mountain, and the weather, and the nature is our teacher, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
And I would like to know that in the ancient time, does everybody sail the traditional canoe, or only the men?
Yes, well, it depended on the trips. Women would sail if a group would leave the island forever and go settle down somewhere else. Then they would need women and their animals, so they would sail because they could put many, many people on the canoe. Sometimes, that's from what we heard, they could even have 100 people on the canoe. Yeah, so they would sail with their whole village, you know, the women and their animals and their plants to settle down somewhere else. But we haven't heard of women who would be active like navigators or captains.
Yes. Yeah? And can you share about the journey in 2019 when you and your husband sailed the traditional canoe from Tahiti to Aotearoa? Can you share the journey with us?
We were very honored to be invited to this event that was called Tuia 250, which was a commemoration of, it was celebrating the dual heritage from 250 years of the arrival of Captain Cook and 1,000 years of Maori navigation. And they invited us because on board of the Endeavour, Captain Cook's vessel, there was a Tahitian navigator whose name was Tupaia. And in order to celebrate him and to commemorate him, that's how we ended up being invited. But the condition was that we would arrive sailing traditionally. And by then we would, Fafaite on our canoe, we were not sailing traditionally yet. So they offered to teach us. They said, okay, we're gonna teach two people from your, and the board decided that it was gonna be my husband and I who were gonna be the students. So we got really lucky. We didn't choose actually. So we were offered this beautiful gift. And we went to Aotearoa a couple of times. Our teachers, Piripi Smith and Jack Thatcher, who are both Puo navigators, which means master navigators, would come also to Tahiti to teach us. And then we sailed, not knowing that this trip was a test for us. And if we succeeded in arriving to Tauranga in Aotearoa, we would become navigators. We had no clue, although they had told us, but we never realized it. So it was really funny because during the sail, our teacher Piripi was sailing with us, observing us, testing us, and sometimes he would say, you know, I want you guys to pass the test, and we were looking at each other going, what test is he talking about? Yeah, but it was a tough sail. It was very cold. It hailed on a canoe. Us Tahitian, you know, we're like here. Our place is very hot, and we're not used to the cold. We're not used to the cold at all. So it was quite difficult on us, on the whole crew, the cold. It was sailing in different waters, looking at, you know, sailing in cold water too, which was, it was quite difficult at times, yeah. But it's always you know, it's a spiritual journey when when you sail like this, especially without instruments, and you're outside, night, day, day, night, you're outside, it feels like at some point you're not the same person anymore, you know? You're like a sponge who absorbs the energies of the ocean, of the stars, of the moon, and then it's like a connection of you with everything that surrounds you, and it becomes always a spiritual journey. Yeah, and I noticed that there is always spiritual lesson. So now when I sail, I have no expectations anymore. I just know that I'm gonna get a spiritual lesson, sometimes a tough one too, but I embrace it because I think it's part of the gifts of sailing.
And I believe it's a very amazing, like, spiritual journey for you. And I wonder that, does every, like, navigator needs the test before they become the navigator?
Well, being a navigator is not just being a navigator. When you are called a navigator, but that's what our teacher told us when on this day they did a ceremony for us. He said, now you have a little bit more weight on your shoulders.
Yes.
And it's because in the traditional way, being a navigator is also having duties. The duty of transmission, the duty of showing the way to your people, your community. And so it's almost like you also have a little bit of a public life, you know? And yeah, so it's not just any navigator in the world. It's very different, yeah. And I believe that's why there is, at some point, a ceremony that's gonna say, okay, we're gonna make this person a navigator or not, yeah.
So before you become a navigator, you need to have a ceremony? Traditional
Not before. You need, actually, the way it works, I think, is you just sail and do show your proofs.
Yeah.
And then they decide, okay, yes, you've sailed enough, long enough, you found islands, or we've seen you with your crew, or how you, yeah. So they, yeah, and they I guess they've seen how my husband and I work with the canoe and the crew.
So in the Tahitian society, is there any, like, hierarchy that does the navigator, traditional navigator, has the highest status?
Yeah, in the traditional sense, yes. In the Western world, the captain is the legal person on the canoe, yeah? So when we go out, let's say we sail outside of our country, we have to fill out immigration forms and stuff. On these papers, the boss is the captain, yeah. But in reality,
yeah,
the navigator
is the boss.
Yeah, is the leader. Yeah.
Yes, totally different way of thinking.
Yes, it's a very different way of thinking, and it's also very. It's not just being the boss. It's a family. It's, you know.
Oh, it's a family.
Yeah, you have to sail together, because alone with this canoe, what are you gonna do? You need everybody that's gonna be in your crew. You need the cook, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. You need handy people. You need all kinds of different people. And so the people who are gonna do the voyage with you prepare themselves like you prepare yourselves, and all together we prepare ourselves as a group, so that the voyage, you know, can be a success. But also when we get on land, when we reach land, we're able to remain like a voice, yeah, the voice of the canoe, of our canoe.
And I want to know that what's the voyaging culture or sailing the traditional canoe for you? What's the importance for you?
Well, I believe we are ocean people. We are people of the sea.
Yes.
Our country, our territories did not stop at land. The distance between two islands is the sea between two islands is the road. It's not a separation.
It's connected.
Islands are connected, and we call all this area Te Moana Nui Ahiva, which means the big ocean, the big sea of Hiva, who is the guardian of the sea. And the Mauna Kea Hiva goes far, you know. We come from Taiwan, and then there was this migration, arrived in Tahiti, sailed to Hawaii, to Rapa Nui, Easter Island, to Aotearoa, and then we have this Polynesian Triangle. But this Polynesian Triangle is not a triangle actually, because we arrived also in South America, we arrived also in North America, and now it's been proven these days, you know, with
we're all connected.
All new discoveries, that recent discoveries, that oh, maybe there's a connection. Of course there's a connection, because we have, the ocean is, you know, it's just our second nature. And I believe that all those skills that you learn in observing made our people understand certain things, certain realities. But what happened is that they brought all this understanding on land and built their society upon it, upon this experience and those values. And you have many vocabularies from the canoe that is used on land, because it's very linked, and it's this all this understanding, you know, that was used to create even the political organization of our country. And now we don't sail anymore. So if we don't sail anymore, you know, and that's the sea, and all this knowledge is where we come from, then there's a break, you know. And that's why, to me, I believe it's very, very important to come back to this, because it's your basis, it's your foundation, and the foundation has to be there for you to decide what you want to do in life, you know. But yeah, you know, and also I believe it brings back self-esteem, and I believe that many of our youth lack self-esteem.
Yes.
And maybe navigation can be a solution in that sense. Yeah.
Yes, because like you mentioned, every indigenous youth, they have to find the self-esteem, yeah, and also the self-identity. Yeah, and I think that the navigating, the voyaging culture could be one of the way to find themselves.
Yeah. Right? But I believe also that it's the time to excuse ourselves to be who we are, you know, or the time, it's gone this time. Today, all of us, you know, you're all indigenous people. We have the right to say, this is my beliefs, this is my traditions.
Yes.
And it works. And it works in my life, and it works in my society or for my community. And we can start from there and keep traditions going, and we think it's important, and we don't have to explain why, because this is it, you know. And I think today we have the right to say this. We have been apologizing for so many years, you know, and so that's it now. And I believe that navigation makes us stronger about this, because we talk from experience. We don't talk because we read in a book. We talk because we have lived this, yeah, and that's how it gives you more self-esteem. It's because you have done it. You know, like we say in Tahiti, you need to put your hands back in the ground, or you know, or yeah, meaning you need to do the work,
yeah,
so that you understand things, and then you can talk and stand tall on your feet.
You have to live the culture instead of learning from the books, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and since your first time to Taiwan. Because Taiwan is also an island, and we also have indigenous peoples that live in the east coast of Taiwan, and also Orkney Island, our Dao people, yeah, and they also have the voyaging culture. So there's many similarities between Tahiti and also Taiwan. Why?
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And it was, for my husband and I, it was very important to be here, and I hope one day we can, well, bring the canoe is going to be a big project, but at least if we can bring our crew at first, yeah, and who knows, if we can bring the canoe, it would be even greater. But we're here because our history started here.
Yeah.
And now we understand that actually there's the same situation here. The knowledge of navigation is gone. Yeah, it's not practiced anymore. And so we're very interested in knowing people, in meeting people, and talk about this. And yeah.
And yeah, we expect that there will be more collaboration with
Yes,
you,
definitely.
and also the association, with the association. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. We learned a lot from your experience, and hope one day we can visit Tahiti.
Yes.
And interview the more voyaging culture with you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Maurururua.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.